have reached Red Steele's Awesome Toy Collector Review. I'm your man, Red Steele, and today I went into the vault for this one because I dug out Transformers Generation 1 Dinobot Snarl. Transformers Snarl. Before I get to the actual review, I just want to go over some of the vintagely beautiful details on this packaging. Up front here, that's the display window showing you both the figure and all the accessories inside. On this top flap, you have Transformers More Than Meets the Eye. Over here, the Autobot symbol, and next to that it says Heroic Autobot. Then on top of the packaging here, you see some of Snarl's steps for his transformation. Then in the corner here, it says transforms from dinosaur to robot and back. Then over here is a beautiful illustration of Snarl in his robot mode. In the corner here, the Hasbro emblem, and next to that it says Transformers, and below that it says Dinobot Desert Warrior Snarl. Then over here in the corner, you have the age requirement of ages 14 and up, and next to that it says include snap-on weapons and accessories. On the side of the packaging here, on the very top, again, you have the Transformers logo. Below that, you have the picture of the actual toy in both his robot mode and his dinosaur mode. In the corner here, you see Dinobot Snarl. The other side of the packaging here, you have the exact same thing. Then the back of the packaging here, in the very corner, you have Transformers More Than Meets the Eye. The other corner here says, it is the world transformed, where things are not what they seem. It's the world of the Transformers, a world of heroic Autobots and evil Decepticons. Then over here you have an old school vintage illustration of all the Autobots and Decepticons from Series 2 doing battle. Then over here you have a text spec that reads, Dinobot Snarl, function, Desert Warrior. Quote, only in war is there happiness. An unhappy loner of few words and fewer opinions finds joy only in battle. Hates his Dinobot form, longs to return to Cybertron. Large golden plates on spinal assembly are solar collectors. Strength increases tenfold in sunlight. Tail can shatter 20-foot concrete cube. Armored hide resists most missiles. Vulnerable to nighttime attacks due to his weaker state. Slow, uncooperative nature hinders others from helping him. Then in the corner here you have these two Autobot robot points. Transformers Snarl. Snarl was released in 1985 with the suggested retail price of $15.99, and he was available at all major retailers. Snarl was released along with the other Transformers Dinobots, Grimlock, Slag, Sludge, and Swoop. Snarl transforms from his dinosaur mode to his robot mode in 9 steps. His accessories include his Energo Sword, Electron Cannon, Rocket Pod, 3 rockets, label sheet instructions, and text spec decoder. Snarl stands 5.5 inches tall, and he is meant for fans ages 5 and up. Next, I want to go ahead and convert Snarl from his dinosaur mode all the way to his robot mode. With the first step of the transformation, I want to go ahead and take the front assembly right here and the back assembly. I want to go ahead and pull it apart just like that. This is step number 2. You have Snarl's front leg right here, and inside here you have this groove. You want to bring this leg so it goes right into that groove just like that. Go and turn him around. Go and take that leg piece now and do the same thing. Put it right in that groove just like that. Because next you want to take this head piece right here. You want to split it open because there's a hinge joint right there and right there. So we'll do that right now. Split it open. So step number 3, you have this whole assembly piece right here. What they want you to go and do, they want you to go and flip this out just like that. Go and do it to the other side to this front assembly piece and flip it out just like that. This is step number 4. What you want to do is now take this arm piece right here. You want to go ahead and bend it back just like that so the fist pops out just like that. Do that to the other side to this leg piece right here. Bend it so this fist piece pops out just like that. The next thing you want to do is take this arm piece now and swing it forward just like that. Go and do it to the other side to this arm piece right here. and swing it forward just like that. Because step number 5, you have this tail piece right here. You have a hinge joint right there and right there. We're going and split that tail piece open just like that and just like that. So you have the spinal assembly right here. It's not a double jointed hinge. You want to bring it up just like that. This is step number 6. You have this headpiece right here. We're going to flip this headpiece over. You want to take the spinal assembly and bring it down just like that. This is step number 7. With this whole bottom half here, we're going to rotate it around just like that. This is step number 8. What they're going to do is take this whole leg piece right here and right here. You want to bring them out just like that and kind of separate the leg. Then step number 9. You want to go ahead and bring in all the accessories. So the first accessory I'm going to bring in is his rocket pod. Part of this rocket pod, you have a peg right there. On the side of each one of his shoulders right there, and right there you have a porthole. I'm going to go and plug this rocket pod right in one of those peg holes just like that. Because the next accessory I'm going to bring in is his missile. You want to take that missile and arm that rocket pod just like that. Because now the next accessory I want to bring in is his electron cannon. In the bottom of the electron cannon here you have a little peg. Each one of his fists has a porthole. You just plug that cannon right into his fist just like that. The next accessory I want to go and bring in is his Energon sword. In the bottom of the handle right here, you got a little peg right there. His fist has a little porthole. I want to go and plug that in just like that. I'm going to push this missile in just like this. And now you have Snarl in this full robot mode. Now they have Snarl in his dinosaur mode and on my display table, so we'll go over some of his play features. And this Snarl is really nicely done. I mean, out of the many years that Transformers have been out and many versions of Snarl that Hasbro and Takara have produced, I still have to say the Generation 1 dinosaur mode is probably the best. I mean, it's not just the gold chroming that adds to that, in my opinion, because it's very nicely done. It's a beautifully done figure. But I mean, the proportions nice, and with a lot of the newer figures like the War for Cybertron, even the Studio series, what they did was they took the robot mode, engineered the alt mode from that, and that's what they did with the Studio Series Snarl. They engineered the dinosaur mode from the robot mode because they didn't want to take away from the robot mode. Well, the opposite was done back in the day with Takara, where they took these modes like dinosaur modes or car modes, and they engineered a robot out of it somehow, and that's why this dinosaur mode is probably the best one, the definitive version of all the Snarls that have ever been produced. I mean, so nicely done. I mean, you look at the sticker detail, and that adds to that vintageness. It's just so nicely done. Very cool figure. And the one thing I know the instructions don't really tell you is you can actually arm your Snarl while he's in his dinosaur mode. That's when you can go and grab that rocket pod, that little peg right there, the little porthole on his hip right there on his back leg. You want to go and plug that in just like that. If you want, you can go and grab that missile. So this is one of the few dinosaurs besides Swoop that can really be armed in his dinosaur mode. It's really cool, and my spring launcher is not really functional because over time the spring got worn off, and I guess it's from years of sitting there in the packaging which caused that. And maybe someday I'll reopen it, because you can repair your old Transformers, believe it or not like the newer, more recent Transformers, because there are screws. So you can disassemble this and put a new screw in, which I know there are kits online available to do that. I mean, you got a little bit of pushback with that spring, but not too great. But it's a great figure nonetheless, and I love this dinosaur mode. And I have maybe 2 of each of these Generation 1 Dinobots, so I really actually display these figures both in a robot mode and dinosaur mode. And there are a few instances in Generation 1 where the robot mode and the alt mode are both great, and they did their best to kind of balance it out. I mean, the animated series where they based their concept art on Snarl, they did their best, but I mean, the Dinobots are almost TV ready, or animation ready, where they were pretty close to what you saw on a TV screen, not like the other Transformers like Bumblebee, and there's a few others where you look at them and you're like, wow, that looks nothing like they did in the cartoon series. But Snarl is probably one of the better Dinobots. Him, Swoop, I mean, all of them are great. I mean, Sludge, Slag, Grimlock, just nicely done figures. And, you know, if you know the history of the Dinobots, they were actually ported over from a toy line in Japan called Diaclone. And what happened was Hasbro was interested in bringing over the Diaclones in the United States market, what they did is they licensed them and rebranded them as Transformers, and they took away the pilots because the Diaclone figures did come with little pilots, and there's little compartments throughout the figures, and I believe the compartment for Snarl in his dinosaur mode is under the spine. I believe maybe you have to open this up, and you have to open up this compartment. You can put your pilot in here. You know, it's not really accessible in dinosaur mode. You can pop it open just like that. But that's the compartment that you can put your Diaclone pilot in. You close the spine up just like that. But Dinobot Snarl in his best and in his dinosaur mode. And I'm going to rotate him out so you guys can see what it looks like from all angles. Very nicely done figure. I love my Snarl, and I would highly recommend if you get your hands on one, grab one. I have Snarl in his robot mode, and on my display table, I once again want to go over some of his play features and accessories. First, I talk about his rocket pod. And during the final step of the transformation, I showed you how to fully arm Snarl with all of his weapons. And this rocket pod easily goes into each one of his shoulders. He has a little porthole right there and right there. And that's kind of a unique feature with Generation 1 where you can actually port into weapons in both modes. And you can actually do that with him when he's in his dinosaur mode too. And this rocket pod here is actually spring loaded. My spring's really worn out. I'm not sure, maybe over time I was set in the packaging, it deteriorated. But you're supposed to be able to pull this trigger in, and it's supposed to release this firing mechanism that unleashes this missile where it shoots forward, because it's spring loaded. See a little groove around this missile right here, and there's a little hook mechanism inside the missile with the spring behind it. And since the spring is not very strong, it's not really repelling it too much. You see a little bit of pushback, but it's not strong enough to fire it like it used to. And this little hook right here will hook into this groove where it held onto the missile while it's in the rocket pod. Next accessory I'm going to talk about is his Energo sword, or Energon sword. I'm not sure why on the packaging it says Energo, but I think it's supposed to be meant to be an Energon sword. We get the sword right here, and according to the animated model, the only weapon that they actually showed him displaying was this sword. He's the only Dinobot that came armed with a sword in the animated series, and that's because the animated concept art only showed him with this sword. They're not shown with this side-mounted rocket blaster right here, which could also be a normal blaster, or this right here, this cannon right here, his electron cannon, which is really, really fierce and cool. It's too bad that they did not make this more into like the animated form, because that'd be a massive weapon to have. And this figure is like chock full of like vintageness, because you know the old technology, and back in the 80s, a lot of figures loved using the whole chroming technique, and they used the gold chrome, which I think is really cool, and it really pops. You got that with a lot of the spine right here, you got it with the tail, the head, you got it throughout the figure. It's very nicely done. And the nice thing about the old Transformers, at least from season 1 and 2, is you got some die-cast metal in there in some places, like this chest piece right here, die-cast metal. You have this compartment right here that actually opens up, and that's always been kind of like a mystery. But before there were Transformers, this toy line was actually a toy line from Japan called Diaclone. And what happened was Hasbro licensed them out for US distribution and rebranded them Transformers. And originally these figures came with little pilots that went inside these figures, and that's what this compartment's for. The little Diaclone pilots. Which is pretty cool they left that feature still in there, but they kind of left it open-ended, whether or not they wanted to permanently close these little compartments throughout all these Diaclones / Transformers. And they just left them remaining. It's kind of a cool little piece of trivia, you know, just in case you guys were wondering what these compartments were for and why there's seats in these Transformers. This figure's really nicely done. And the one issue that you might have with the Takara era of Transformers is, and even Generation 1, they took the vehicle mode, or the alt modes, which is the alternative modes, and they engineered the robot from that mode. So that's why you get a lot of that weird proportion. Like, you got this barrel chest right here. It's pretty oddly proportioned. He's not like what he looks like in a cartoon series. And that's what a lot of the gripes that children had back then was the robot modes looked nothing like they did in the cartoon series. Well, I mean, the Dinobots were pretty close, but I mean, back then they didn't really have the technology to kind of incorporate and balance it out, not like they do now. Now I'm going to go and bring in my studio series to show you exactly what I'm talking about, because I mean, this figure looks just like he did out of the cartoon series. Unfortunately, Snarl got the short end of the stick when it came to the movie, because he only appeared in few scenes of the movie, and I'm very surprised that they produced a studio series version of Snarl. But this is what he looked like in the cartoon series, and he is based on the animated model from both Generation 1 cartoon series and Transformers the movie. And here he is with his sword. And this is the only weapon he came with. Pretty cool. I mean, you can see the different size, different scale differences, but they're both very nice figures. I mean, nowadays with they don't do too much of the chroming because it does chip off and it has a short shelf life. But they do mold the figures in like a gold metallic plastic, which I think is a nice step away from chroming. You know, chroming's very risky, but as you can see, the head sculpts are a little bit different, and they did their best to base the Transformers, from the cartoon series on the toys, but they kind of had to get away from it because the proportions were a little strange. But I'm going to go take my Studio Series Snarl, put him off to the side. Because this figure is just beautiful. I would highly recommend collecting Generation 1 toys because they're great. But if you guys found any of the information in this review valuable, please like and share this video. Also, if you really enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel. And while you're there, click the bell to be notified in future videos. I want to thank you guys for watching Steele's Toy Collector Review. I'll check you guys out next time.